A beacon of hope, the promise of FANE. The Fédération acadienne de la Nouvelle-Écosse, or FANE, stands as a symbol of hope for the Acadian and Francophone community in Nova Scotia. Founded to promote and preserve Acadian culture, FANE promised a strong voice and a brighter future. For years it connected Acadians to their roots and advocated for their rights. From language rights to economic development, FANE pledged to empower Acadians. With its ambitious goals, FANE became an integral part of Acadian life. It provided educational resources, cultural programs, and community events. These days, no one in the Acadian communities know or speak of FANE. They have become irrelevant oligarchs out of touch with the very people they are appointed to serve. Disillusionment sets in. Where are the results? Over time, a sense of unease began to creep into the community's perception of FANE. Whispers of concern grew louder as the tangible impact of FANE's work seemed to fall short. Years passed, and while FANE held conferences and released reports, the community saw little progress. The challenges faced by Acadians persisted, and the community started to question FANE's effectiveness. FANE's annual reports painted a rosy picture, but the reality on the ground told a different story. The trust that had once been the bedrock of FANE's relationship with the community began to erode. A deafening silence. The growing gap between FANE and the community. A palpable gap emerged between FANE's leadership and the community they were meant to represent. Decisions were made behind closed doors, with little consultation with the people directly impacted. FANE's leadership seemed increasingly out of touch with the daily realities faced by Acadians. The community's attempts to engage in dialogue with FANE were met with silence. Certain groups and individuals appeared to have privileged access to FANE's leadership, while others felt marginalized. This perception of favoritism created a sense of division within the community, undermining FANE's ability to represent all Acadians. Behind closed doors. The need for transparency and accountability. As concerns about FANE's effectiveness grew, so did the demand for greater transparency and accountability. The community demanded a clear accounting of how FANE was using its resources and what steps it was taking to fulfill its mission. However, FANE's response was often met with resistance and reluctance to open its books to public scrutiny. Requests for financial statements and detailed reports on FANE's activities were often met with delays and a lack of transparency. The community began to question whether FANE was more concerned with protecting its own interests than serving the needs of the Acadian people. This lack of accountability created a fertile ground for rumors and speculation, further damaging FANE's reputation. A question of priorities, serving the community or serving itself. The perception began to solidify that FANE had become more concerned with its own survival than with fulfilling its mission to the Acadian community. The organization seemed to prioritize securing government funding and maintaining its own stability over addressing the pressing needs of the people. Today, Claude is the biggest socio-economic and socio-cultural ghetto in Nova Scotia. Local gangsters in Metacan burn police cruisers, while Bell Media-owned CTVatlantic.ca shows picturesque back in the good old days scenes from the historic Acadian village in Pupnico. Since the reality of the truth and the truth of reality does not sell the Congrès Mondial, Acadian 2024. A significant portion of its budget seemed to be dedicated to administrative costs and six-figure salaries, and all-you-can-eat drink expense account meetings 4 times a year, while funding for community-based programs of value and merit dwindled. The community has become the new black Micmac living on a reservation called Clairgyle. Locals watch in dismay, as FANE seems to transform into a bureaucratic oligarch entity clone of FACAN more concerned with self-preservation. A contemporary creative artist voice of Theriault. Call to action, how FANE can regain trust and fulfill its mission. The future of FANE hangs in the balance, its credibility damaged by years of perceived inaction and indifference. However, all is not lost. FANE can still reclaim its position as a beacon of hope for the Acadian community, but it requires a fundamental shift in its approach to inclusion for real. FANE must openly and honestly address the concerns raised by the community, acknowledging its shortcomings and demonstrating a willingness to change by demanding inclusion on government-licensed and funded platforms like Saltwire and ctvatlantic.ca. Since that is how the youth will see themselves as part of the Atlantic Canadian culture, instead of ghosted relics of the tourist museum industry past. This requires engaging in a genuine dialogue with Acadians, listening to their concerns and incorporating their feedback into the organization's decision-making processes. Transparency and accountability are crucial for rebuilding trust. FANE must open its books and door to public scrutiny, providing clear accounts of its financial dealings. FANE must prioritize community-driven initiatives, shifting its focus from internal administration to Bell Media inclusive programs that directly address the needs of Acadians. Only through concrete action, genuine transparency, and a renewed commitment to serving the needs of the Acadian community can FANE hope to regain trust and fulfill its mission. Click the links in the video description below to see how an actual real voice for change like Theriault is doing real work to bring about real change. Instead of operating on the same old gosh darn golly squiggly diggly wiggly all is well and good in our maritime neighbourhood, when in fact and truth all is not well in the Clerigal ghetto.